Hi, and welcome to this Armis Enablement series, where today we will be introducing to you two modules from the cyber exposure management platform of Armis Centrix. These modules are VIPR Pro prioritization and remediation, as well as early warning. And as we go through the conversation today, we're going to address how these two products help our customers see the risk they have associated with their assets in their environment, but more importantly, take that risk, prioritize it, make sure that ownership is assigned, and then orchestrate the workflows necessary to remediate that risk and to reduce the overall risk footprint in the environment. So let's jump into the console and see how this works. All right, wonderful. We are now here in the VIPR prioritization and remediation console. You'll see a couple of things that may stand out to you. Obviously, there's a breakdown of criticality and a number that we can look at. What's important to understand is findings for us is really anything related to risk in the environment. Often we think of a finding as a CVE, which would kind of be a host-based vulnerability. But we also look at things as, serverless or web apps or containers or even code packages. And there might be dependencies in our code that have vulnerabilities in them, and we need to see them. We also look at things like misconfigurations as infrastructure as code or host-based configurations or even cloud misconfigurations, right? All of these are weaknesses into the environment, and sometimes when chained together can be rather catastrophic, which is what VIPR is designed to do. It is an aggregator of security information. So the information is going to come from the Chasm tools in the environment for a customer. So whether that's their asset management tools, Centrix does IT and OT and IoT and medical, like all of that information is going to come in from an asset discovery perspective. Now, there are other things, CMDB data that's going to come down here in our collaboration tools. So obviously everything that you guys have in service now today, we're going to ingest and bring in from that perspective. But you've got your build tools. These are repositories full of code. Code is a key source for a lot of our customers today. Many customers have code, and we want to be able to scan and secure that code. We want to look at their external attack surface management. How can a threat come in from the outside or maybe from their cloud security tools such as Orca, Prisma, or Wiz? There's ownership information that we need to bring in, maybe from Google Cloud. Now, you'll notice that we also have scanners here in the product from a vulnerability assessment standpoint. So we have our own Armis AppSec scanner that competes with the likes of Black Ducks and Checkmarks and Sneak. Same with our VMDR tool or our external attack surface management tool. But regardless of whether the tool comes from us to do the scan or from a vendor out there that is in there, VIPR Pro is designed to aggregate all of that data, bring it in so that we can look at things from a risk perspective across the entire suite here. So how does that work? Over here, I'm going to switch to our data flow. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. All of these integrations are pulling in asset-related information as well as finding-related information. So that's why we have findings and asset per integration. And when we ingest that data, we're going to have kind of this large data lake from every tool that is relevant to the customer in their environment. So because VIPR is an aggregator, it's not doing any scanning in and of itself. Some of the other modules related to the Centrix platform do that, but VIPR is just going to pull in information for our customers. And then we're going to go through the process of normalizing the language, which is an important piece. So we're all saying the same things. Criticality might be high, medium, low. It could be 1, 2, 3. Who knows, right? But we bring that together so that we're talking risk holistically, regardless of what tool found that information. Then we're going to go through and dedupe it. We have an AI engine that's looking at both the asset data as well as the finding data. We don't want to have 10 assets from 10 different tools that get sent over to the remediation owner. That only causes frustration when it's truly one asset. And the same goes with fixes and findings. Using the language on what is the problem as well as the fix, we're able to dedupe all of that information and bring it together. And one of the things that's very powerful about that is how we can group all of the problems into a common fix. This is where we can really start to accelerate the remediation timelines for our customers. In today's world, we might have 5 days from release to exploit. And actually, that's a statistic from Mandiant back in 2023. What has everyone concerned right now with the agentic era that we're in, and you might have heard of Project Mythos from Anthropic, that's an AI model that's able to successfully look at many different weaknesses and vulnerabilities and chain them together in a way where we've got holes in our environment that we didn't really know about before. And so this is why VIPR is so important, is to bring together the complete picture, not look at things in silo, and begin to understand how important they are to the business. Having a list of problems without knowing the context of the asset is not very helpful. So a key piece to the VIPR data flow is to pull in the context about the asset. What is it doing? Often the CMDB data has this information. How important is it? Does it belong to a critical business service? That information is going to be helpful in order for us to prioritize what we work on first. Secondly, we need to know what threat information exists about the vulnerability. So the second module that I want to talk to today, most of everything so far has been around VIPR Pro, but early warning is our way of looking at all of the CVEs that are out there. We watch the threat groups, we watch the threat actors, we have some back-end processes that we go through, including being on the dark web, to understand what they're doing and have they been successful in exploiting or weaponizing a weakness or vulnerability. And when that happens, we tag that CVE and bring that to the forefront of our customers' information pool, right? That is a key piece of data. So, if there are 55,000 new CVEs released every year, but we only have to worry about, let's say, 1,000 of them because, threat actors were able to exploit or weaponize those CVEs, those are the ones we're going to hit first or prioritize. So early warning is a way to focus our remediation actions based off of what is most important. And the context here would be married together. What hit on early warning and what's important to the customer. You bring those two pieces together, and now we're talking about tens, maybe in a very large environment, hundreds of items that we need to address instead of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even in the millions of CVEs that need to be looked at. So context enrichment is key. Then we can prioritize. That score of 1 to 100 is going to be unique to the customer. 1 being the least amount of risk, 100 being the most amount of risk, but it's pulling in the context from them so that when we do go and assign SLAs based off of the criticality risk score, we are doing it based off of the workflow for the customer. But then we group everything up. I had mentioned earlier, this is a key piece to moving quicker. We need to be able to take all of the problems and align them to a common fix and assign the common fix information to the remediation owner. No longer do we provide them a list of 100 problems. Look at Google Chrome as an example. If we're a couple months behind on updating Google Chrome, we might have 10 or 20 or 30 vulnerabilities related to that update. So what we do is we provide the remediation owner and say, hey, you need to update Google Chrome to this version, and it will address these 10, 20, 30, hundreds of CVEs, whatever it happens to be. But aggregating all of the problems to a common fix is a super neat way to accelerate or to move quicker in the environments. And then lastly, we need to know ownership. In the world that we live in today, no one person or team is responsible for an asset. If you look at a SQL server as an example, you might have IT owns the operating system, business applications owned by the business team, and SQL applications obviously owned by the SQL team. And so in that scenario, depending on what remediation action needs to take place, we could have 3 different teams involved in working on that particular asset. So we have an AI engine that is pulling in the context from all of those respective tools, including the CMDB, to help give us that ability to understand, if I'm going to cut an incident here, who does it go to? And now we can move a little bit quicker. We can't spend the precious time that we have between discovery of a vulnerability trying to find out who the owner is, because in today's world, we might be down to minutes instead of even hours or days that we've had in the past. And then once we know who the owner is, we want to reach out to them and work in the tools that they are in. Now, many of your customers are going to be all in on ServiceNow, but there's going to be scenarios where even like a development team might be using Jira. And in that scenario, we can work work with multiple instances of each tool. It doesn't have to be one collaboration tool at all, but that we're going to know where that remediation owner works and do so in a bidirectional workflow. So hopefully that helps kind of give the VIPR data flow. Now, because today's demonstration is designed to be a little bit shorter in nature, let me just kind of walk you through what it would look like. I can come in here and say, okay, I've got, I do some math here. I've got just over 300,000 findings that have been deduped in my environment, right? So it looks like, 336,000 deduped findings. But to be a prioritization engine, I want to bubble up what's most important. So what we could do real quick, just in the nature of the time that we have here, say, let's just look at critical fixes. So now we've gone from 300,000 to the 4920 that we saw in that previous dashboard. But let's layer in that early warning threat information. This is evidence-based, and so I know that these particular findings matter. And so now I've gone from, thousands to hundreds. Well, maybe some of these have already been operationalized, so it has ticket is in a helpful vulnerability filter for me. So I can come in here and say which ones don't yet have a ticket because I need to prioritize those. Now, here's one where, going back to our Google Chrome example, as I open up this side drawer, this one has 21 CVEs related to it. Now, there's one action for me. I need to get to the latest version of Chrome, and it's going to solve all 21 of these. And this early warning icon is telling me that this particular CVE out of the 21 has the flag of a known exploit. So this is why it's been prioritized higher for me. So what I can do in this scenario is I can come in here and create a ticket. Now notice I've got a team owner here, I've got an asset owner, I've got a remediation owner. Security owner is not yet assigned. So when we come in here to create the ticket, it's going to go to this individual. Now some of the ticketing tools are grayed out here because that individual owner doesn't work in these respective tools. So we're helping the security owners know where does this particular remediation owner work and do their thing. So now I can come in here and say create the ticket. It's going over here. It's going to reach out to the ServiceNow environment. It's going to let Bennett know that he has work that he needs to do, and it's going to assign an SLA. And down here, you can see that the SLA is set to now 30 days out. Now that SLA comes from the predefined rules that have been set on that given asset there. Now, from a security owner perspective, I can come in here and see all of the tickets that have been created, what the status they're in, are they open or closed? And as well as, if you want, we can get right into the workflow for this particular incident that has been generated, and I can see what the remediation owner was provided based off of the workflow. So here's that update to the latest version. Down here is a list of all of the CVEs that were associated with it, and then we've got that bi-directional workflow where the remediation owner can come in and say, I am confirming receipt for the ticket, right? And in this post, comment's going to go back into the VIPR module so that this information, this bi-directional back and forth, can be communicated easily, and we don't have to bounce between consoles if we don't need to, from that perspective. So as I open this up, that information is now here inside of the tool where I can see that note came through from the ServiceNow module. So that is kind of VIPR in a nutshell. Obviously, there's a lot more that we can do around putting in some automation around projects and making sure that we have campaigns where we're addressing things kind of consistently from an automation workflow anytime I see a particular CVE. But I just wanted you to give a taste of how we can go from that large picture of hundreds of thousands of vulnerabilities. We scale it in with early warning findings, so we're only looking at hundreds. And then that is what the team knows to go and work on. So thank you. Hopefully this was helpful for you to familiarize yourselves with the two modules, VIPR Pro, prioritization and remediation, as well as early warning inside of the Centrix platform. Have a great rest of your day.